Hey, what's up guys? So have you ever been curious what really inexpensive dash cams are like? Well, I have, and so for that reason, I recently purchased the 70mai M310, which is a dash cam that you can buy for all of $33. Now, obviously a dash cam like this is not going to be comparing to the high-end dash cams that cost anywhere from $100 for a single channel model to $300, $400, even $500 for a high-end multi-channel dash cam. And so obviously my expectations for a dash cam in this price range are really low. But that said, I'm really curious to see what it's like. And so in this video, let's take a look at its specs, its main features, what the video quality is like, how the different parking recording modes are implemented, what the main trade-offs are compared to the high-end dash cams that I normally like to run myself and review here on this channel. And lastly, I'm also really curious when a dash cam like this would actually make sense, and knowing what the trade-offs are, what the capabilities are, like in what situations would it actually make sense to save the money over a higher end dash cam and go for something simpler and more affordable here like this. And so with that said, let's go ahead and take a closer look now here at this 70mai M310. Now, taking a closer look at the dash cam itself, it looks like this. So you've got your circular barrel shaped design. There's no GPS internally. There's no LCD in the back itself. There is one button here on the side of the dash cam, which you can use to turn the dash cam on and off, to turn the Wi-Fi on and off, to format the memory card or factory reset, depending on how many times you press it or how long you press it. Interestingly though, there is no ability here to press this to trigger the emergency recording. For that, you do have to use the voice commands, which I'm not a huge fan of because the dash cam does sometimes struggle to hear my voice over the road noise or over the music. So I wish we could trigger the emergency recording here with this button. The mount itself uses double stick tape, so you just peel that off and stick it to the windshield. You use the Wi-Fi app to help with actually aiming the dash cam like this, which I'll show you here in just a minute. Then you lock it down once it's in place here with this little twist mount. I do find that with the dash cam, even though it's pretty lightweight, the mount does introduce some vibration into the video footage, which you'll see once we start getting into the test footage. Then on this side, we've got two ports, one for the micro SD card slot to save all the video footage, and then a second port here, USB Type-C for the power cable. And the included power cable is really just meant for driving recording. You've got your cigarette lighter power outlet here like this. It is a single port option here, so USB Type A. There's not a second port here to charge your phone while you've got the dash cam plugged in. And then this cable here will run from the cigarette lighter to the dash cam itself to power the dash cam when you're in driving recording mode. Now, there is no memory card that's included here with the dash cam, so you are going to have to purchase one of those. So let's take a look at what the pricing would be here with what you would need to run this dash cam. Now, the dash cam normally retails for $45.99, as they say on Amazon, though it's typically on sale, and at the time I'm shooting this video, it's listed for $32.99 or $33. And there are a variety of different memory card options. You could use maybe a 64 gig card, for example, because this has pretty small videos and it's only single channel. And that card retails for $19, so it brings us to $52 total for both the camera and the card, though 70mai does sell them as a bundle for just $43, which is actually $9 off than buying the two individually. Now, for parking recording mode, you're also going to want to buy their optional hardwire cable. This retails for $19, and if you want, 70mai also has a bundle with the hardwire cable and the memory card for $63. And so we're basically looking at $33 plus tax for the dash cam itself, $43 plus tax to add a 64 gig card, or $63 plus tax if you want it bundled with the hardwire cable for parking recording mode. And so obviously your final pricing will vary depending on what your local tax rate is or how big of a memory card you want to choose, etc. Then taking a look at everything that's included with the dash cam besides just the dash cam and the cigarette lighter power cable, if you ever want to move it to another car, you'd have to break off the existing tape, and they do give you some replacement tape that you can move to another vehicle. Also, they give you two sets of these clear plastic trim pieces that make it easier to pull the tape off the windshield without actually leaving a bunch of residue behind on the windshield, though you do still have to dispose the tape. There's a cable trim tucker tool so that you can maybe tuck the cables behind the trim. And then you've got a user manual here and a customer service card in case you need help with the dash cam. Next, let's take a look at the dash cam's video quality, which is easily one of the most important aspects of a dash cam. Now, resolution-wise, it records at 1296p, which is kind of in between 1080p and 1440p, or what we commonly and somewhat incorrectly refer to as 2K. Resolution-wise, that means this 1296p gives us a video file that's 2304 by 1296 at 30 FPS, and they record standard MP4 files with H.265 for better compression and smaller file sizes. Now, the image sensor itself is a fairly low-end sensor. It's a 3 megapixel sensor by SmartSense, specifically the SC3336P. And the video quality from this dash cam is certainly not going to win any awards, but it's enough to give you an overview of what's going on around you. There's no polarizer that's available here with the dash cam, so reflections are going to be an issue in sunnier weather. But either way, what I find is the dash cam is able to capture some important details like license plates, but it really relies on more optimal conditions. For example, you're going to want to be really close to the other car, or maybe even stop behind it. Or if the car is driving next to you, but it's moving relatively slowly past you, then in those situations, yes, it can actually capture license plates. However, this dash cam seems to struggle way more than I would expect, even with cars right next to me. Additionally, when those cars are moving faster or slower than me, the added motion blur makes it even harder. Furthermore, because it's a lower resolution sensor, it also means that you're going to be limited with how far away you can grab the license plates. And the same is going to be true at night here. This dash cam is really going to be best for, again, just kind of giving you a general overview of what's been going on around your car, any cars that were driving by or people that were walking by. But when it comes to capturing some of the smaller details, it will, of course, start to struggle. In optimal conditions, again, if you're maybe close to the other car, you can grab license plates, or at times if they're driving next to you, you can grab plates there as well. However, it's not going to give us the same level of capability we see from some higher end dash cams. Now, I've been doing some comparison here with the VFO A329T, which is a high end model. And while it's not really a fair fight, given that these two dash cams are on complete opposite ends of the spectrum, it can still be a nice reference to see the difference between a low end dash cam and a high end dash cam. For example, thanks to its higher resolution, it can sometimes capture details of cars when they're a little bit farther away, when there's less relative motion, and you can better zoom in to see those details. Again, not perfect, but definitely better than what we see with the low-end models. And this is despite the fact that the VFO actually has a polarizer installed, which is helpful in the daytime, but actually gives it an inherent disadvantage when doing some nighttime testing like this. Furthermore, the A329T has a special trick up its sleeve. It also has an additional telephoto lens that's going to help you to zoom in and really capture those details. And when it comes to capturing license plates specifically, this telephoto can often make it a piece of cake at capturing license plates, even with really fast moving cars, even at night, and especially in situations where a traditional dash cam simply can't do it. And this is a good example of some of the benefits of the high-end dash cams compared to some of the low-end models. Now that said, the pricing of these dash cams is in completely different leagues. For example, this A329T is going to be $400 to give you two cameras up front, both the regular and the telephoto. And then if you want to add the rear cam, which is what I run, that's going to run you $460. That's nearly 14 times as much as the 70mai dash cam at just $33. And so obviously it's not really fair to be comparing these dash cams based on their significantly different price point and their wildly different feature set and capabilities. But again, this kind of gives us an idea of the differences here between the different ends of the spectrum. Now, coming back to the 70mai here, it also offers WDR, which can actually help to capture those reflective license plates when your bright headlights are shining on them. Your mileage may vary, of course, but this is actually better than some of the junkiest dash cams I've seen out there. And so overall with this dash cam, I would say that its video quality is usable. It's not terrible, it's not full-end potato cam, but due to the lower end image sensor and the reduced resolution, I think this dash cam is really optimized just to give you an overall idea of what's going on around your car. In case of a crash, it can see what the other driver did, it can see if maybe the other driver ran a red light, etc. Next, let's switch gears and take a look at parking recording. In order for this to work, you do have to purchase their optional hardwire cable. And this is designed to connect to your vehicle's battery to give you parking recording when the car is turned off. The hardwire cable is designed to monitor the battery voltage, and it turns off the dash cam once the battery level drops to 11.8 volts. Now, personally, I think that 11.8 is a little bit low, but unfortunately there is no option to change the cutoff voltage here with this dash cam. That said, there are a couple different timer options built into the dash cam, so you can have it record in parking mode for a period of time and then shut itself off. Now, in terms of the parking modes themselves, there's two different options. Number one, we've got our collision detection so that it can record in case of an impact. And then number two, we also have a time-lapse recording mode. Now, there are no other options, including motion detection, buffered parking recording, or continuous low bitrate mode. It is just collision detection and time-lapse mode. And so let's go ahead and test these modes out. Now, as a control, I'm also going to be running the VFO A329T, which has both motion detection and collision detection, and its parking mode is buffered, meaning it can record not only after an impact is detected, but also before too. And if we run it side by side here with the 70mai, while the M310 is asleep before an impact is detected, it actually wakes up virtually instantaneously, which is honestly really impressive. You see, usually dash cams will take at least a second or two to wake up after they detect that impact. Now that said, the sensitivity is not very good. I tried actually pushing down on the hood, and this did not wake up the dash cam. Though I did see that by default, the sensitivity is set to medium, and so I cranked it up to high, and I repeated this test, and again, the 70mai did not wake up at all. I also tried whacking the front of the car, but I chose a bad spot to hit and wound up hurting my hand. But either way, even with this impact and the dash cam set to high sensitivity, it again did not trigger and start recording. Now, the 70mai's other parking recording mode is a time-lapse mode, which is basically taking one image every second and combining them into a sped up video that's 30 times faster than real life. And you get video here only and no audio. And so this is kind of the closest thing you get here to a continuous parking recording mode with the M310. Now, what's kind of cool here is you can actually have both parking recording modes enabled simultaneously. And so testing it out here with both collision detection and time-lapse mode enabled, I walked up to the front of the car and then whacked the windshield to see how long it takes for the dash cam to start recording. And you'll see that the 70mai can record me approaching the car and then eventually switches over to traditional recording after that impact is detected. However, when we slow down the 70mai's time-lapse footage and put it next to the VFO, you'll notice that it now takes longer to switch to traditional recording mode. And in fact, it takes about 2 seconds or so to switch from time-lapse mode to continuous recording. And while this is not as fast as just collision detection, I think I would actually prefer this because of the fact that you can still record something before the impact is detected. As a bonus, the next time you start your car, the dashcam can actually let you know when an impact was detected while your car was parked.
Abnormal events are detected during parking. Please enter the dashcam album to view the parking surveillance video.
Now, the announcement is a bit wordy, but I like the fact that it has the option in the first place.
And then the last thing to mention here is the fact that many times when I park the car, it actually does not switch over into parking recording mode and instead just continues to record normally and overriding all of my older footage from when I was actually out driving. I've been troubleshooting this for a while and I'm not really sure what's going on, but either way, I've been noticing some issues here with how the dashcam switches between driving and parking mode.
Next, let's take a look at the app here for the M310. And in order to do that, we're going to want to connect here to the Wi-Fi hotspot in the dashcam. It's got 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi built in, so we'll turn it on using voice commands. We'll say turn on hotspot, turn on hotspot. There we go. Okay, so work the second time. Again, that's something that works better in a quiet office like this. It makes it harder for the dash cam to hear when you're in a noisy car or if there's music playing or something. But either way, you're just gonna wanna go and connect to the hotspot here for the dash cam. And then once you do, you can go back to the app and we'll go ahead and connect to the dash cam here like this. And as you can see now, we are actively live streaming. And the live stream here like this to your phone, it can be really nice when you're in the car and you wanna be able to maybe aim the dash cam once you're getting it installed. Additionally, we can go down here into the settings and we can adjust all the settings of the dash cam. So you can see we've got two different resolution options, 1296p and 1080p, both at 30 FPS. We've got different compression schemes, so H.264 and 265. You can also see the different parking mode settings. So we've got collision detection, which you can turn on here like this, and then you can adjust the sensitivity with how strong of an impact it needs in order to trigger the collision detection. You can also have it immediately turn on when you park your car, or you can have it set to delay it by 5 minutes, which can be nice so that when you close your car door, that doesn't trigger an impact here for the parking recording. Then we can go back over here to time-lapse, and you can see we've got the ability to turn time-lapse recording on and off. You do get a warning here about it pulling more power, which makes sense. And then same thing here for all the other settings in the dash cam itself. Now we can also go back here and there's going to be a spot right here for album to view all of the video files that are in the dash cam itself. And as you can see, it's going to break up the videos here into a couple different categories. There's also a timeline option. This will let us kind of go back in time like this. Now, if we want to download any of the video footage, we can just tap this button right here and we can choose kind of like how much of the video we want to do. Let's say 1 minute, for example. We'll hit OK, and it's going to go ahead and start downloading. It is using 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi, not 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi, which is part of the reason why the download times are going to be longer here. It's a slower form of Wi-Fi, despite the fact that we're at a lower resolution with smaller file sizes. I'll put a lot of the details and specs on screen so you can take a look. But this is a convenient way to access the video files directly without having to take the memory card out of the dash cam and then plug it into your computer. And there we go. Now it says it's done. And that process actually took longer than I was expecting. I was hoping that maybe with the smaller file sizes, it would be pretty quick despite the slower Wi-Fi, but it is still a pretty slow process here nonetheless. One other thing I wanted to show you is if we exit here, we can tap on these 3 lines right there, and we do have the option to update the firmware of the dash cam too. So if we tap on that, it'll check to see if there's an update. I haven't seen any updates since I bought both of my cameras, but if there's one available, then you can go in here and just update the dash cam wirelessly over the air like this without having to go to the computer and download something to the memory card. You can just do it directly via your phone, which is very convenient. And so in short, we've got a really inexpensive dash cam here that, depending on your use case, might actually make this usable. The camera itself retails for $30-something. Once you add in a memory card, you're now looking at $40-something. And if you add a hardwire cable to give you the parking recording capabilities, you're now looking at $60-something plus tax for the whole package. And again, that is really cheap. And honestly, any dash cam, even a cheapy potato dash cam, I think is better than having no dash cam in the first place. And with this M310 specifically, the video quality is okay. It's not amazing. It's not phenomenal or anything. But again, remember the price point here. The video quality, given the price, is certainly usable to give you an overall idea as far as what's going on around your car. It offers some basic parking recording capabilities if you hook it up to your car battery, and it's got Wi-Fi that lets you do things like change settings of the dash cam or download the footage directly to your phone or update the firmware for when 70mai releases some updates here for the M310. Now that said, would I personally run this dash cam? Not really, no. I think that there's still too many compromises and trade-offs here with this model. For example, in addition to having just a front dash cam, I like also having a rear camera and often an internal one as well, though the front camera only is probably the most popular option. I also find that there's a big bump in video quality, especially when it comes to capturing those hard to read details like license plates that are very important to capture, and this 70mai model can really only do it in the most optimal of conditions. I also prefer having more advanced parking recording modes that can capture both audio and video before any impacts or important incidents occur. I like having improved sensitivity so it does a better job of actually detecting when those impacts occur. I like having voltage cutoffs in the hardwire cable because 11.8 volts I think is a little bit too low and puts excessive drain on the car battery, and I like to run the cutoffs a little bit higher. Speaking of maybe safety related stuff, there's also an internal battery built in, whereas with the improved models, the newer ones, you actually have a supercapacitor inside so that if the power cable gets pulled like this, you can see it has a little bit of power to stay on and then shut down safely. With the batteries, they're not really good in high heat. They can be a fire risk, and so supercapacitors are kind of what people are switching to. That's something that's lacking here in this model, and so I think this would be better suited for maybe like colder weather driving, not so much hotter weather. I like having GPS built into the dash cam. I like having the buttons here actually doing the emergency recording capabilities in case I need to save and protect this clip, but that's not available here with this side button. You have to use the voice control stuff, which doesn't always work well, especially over road noise or music playing in the car. I also like having some of the advanced features like the cloud connectivity, which is obviously optional, but can be very helpful. And so personally, I find that there's a lot of stuff that I would miss from the high-end options that still very much give me a reason to run a better dash cam, but for something really inexpensive and basic to just stick on the windshield and give you an overall idea of what's going on around your car, driving and parked, I can certainly see this being a viable option. Again, especially considering the price point here, and if we keep our expectations low, considering it's a $30-something dash cam. And so if you'd like to pick one up, I'll put a link down in the description to the dash cam, to the memory card and hardwire cable, and different bundles that you can pick up to save some money as well. Now, if you'd like to see my picks for the very best dash cams available, you can just click this button here on screen to watch that video. Other than that, thanks so much for watching. Hope you guys are doing great, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.